We had some breaking news this morning because it looks like Sony's new hero shooter game Concord is actually being pulled, which is kind of a surprising development since this game just came out on August 23rd, which means it's less than 2 weeks old. And yet Sony is already calling it quits on their new live shooter game, which is just remarkable to think about, especially when you consider this game cost them around $200 million to produce. And they're not even giving it 2 weeks to try to hopefully pick up sales for them, because it looks like they pretty much understand right now that this game is just a loss and they're just trying to cut their losses right now instead of keep doubling and tripling down on it. We got this news coming out from IGN right here. Concord is suddenly getting pulled offline with Sony promising full refunds. And to me, that's also the crazy thing about it, is they're giving out full refunds to people who bought it. I'm not sure what that will actually translate to for people who bought physical copies, whether they're going to send them their money in some way, whether they can send the game back, or whether the physical copy doesn't necessarily apply to these refunds. I'm pretty sure this is mostly going to people who bought digital versions of it. But still, the fact that they're willing to actually just give out refunds right now on this game is pretty remarkable. It's also kind of funny when you look at this article from Forbes that came out also this morning before they made the announcement that they're pulling it offline. PlayStation's Concord appears to have made $1 million. just $1 million on a game that cost them reportedly $200 million to produce. So this might go up there with one of the biggest, if not biggest, video game flop of all time. Let's look at the article, see some of the details about it, because there's not a whole lot to this article. PlayStation hero shooter Concord will be taken offline on September 6, 2024, and all players will receive a full refund, Sony announced today. Announced on the PlayStation blog, director Ryan Ellis said, while many qualities of the experience resonated with players, actually not really, unless you're just counting the few dozen players who actually did play this, which is probably just the developers and their family members. We also recognize that other aspects of the game and our initial launch didn't land the way we'd intended. Yeah, no crap, it didn't land the way you intended. You lost hundreds of millions of dollars on this game. Concord will therefore be taken offline so Sony and developers Firewalk Studios can explore options, including those that will better reach our players. What players? You don't have any players for this game. This is a complete disaster for you. The game will be removed from sale immediately, and anyone who purchased on the PlayStation Store or PlayStation Direct will be refunded to their original payment methods. Those who purchased on Steam and the Epic Game Store will be refunded in the coming days. Physical refunds are a tad trickier, but players can check with individual retailers to obtain the refund. And that does make sense too, because you spent money to buy this game, and once it's taken offline, you can't actually play the game since it is an online game. So yeah, you might have spent $40 to buy a copy of this a couple weeks ago or less than 2 weeks ago, and then all of a sudden they're saying, yeah, it's useless now. Not to mention, when you actually bought this game, a lot of people weren't being able to play it because the player base is so small for it that a lot of people couldn't even find matches and they were getting timed out. I did a video previously talking about that. So it makes sense why they should at very least give a refund for it. Sony will presumably organize a system with them itself that allows all refunds to be processed fully. Once refunded, players will no longer have access to the game. They're not going to have access once it goes offline either. Pulled less than 2 weeks after launch. And okay, so that's pretty much the gist of this story right now, but it is just kind of remarkable how big of a bomb this is for Sony, because I was trying to think about other games that could have actually done worse than this one, and one of the ones that really popped out to me was the Marvel Avengers game when that came out, because that was a pretty big bomb. I have this article right here when that came out, and it says that probably lost them around $200 million for that game. I think this is kind of a fair comparison because it's a fairly recent game that was an online game and or a live service game, and this cost probably a comparable amount in order for them to produce it. But one of the things that's different about this one as opposed to Concord is it's lasted significantly longer. According to the wiki for that game, the game was released on September 4th, 2020 on Xbox One, Google Stadia, PC, and PlayStation 4. A next generation update for Xbox Series XS and PlayStation 5 was released on March 18, 2021. Service ended on September 30th, 2023, and was removed from the digital storefronts the same day. So this at the very least lasted 3 years from when they had the initial release of it till the time they shut it down. This upcoming one, or Concord, didn't even last 2 weeks. And when you look at the Steam charts for Avengers when that was out, at least it had an all-time peak of around 28,000. What we're seeing on Concord, 697 people at the all-time peak. That is just insanely abysmal. I've never seen anything like this, a game do this badly. I mean, there's games out there that don't sell copies and don't have people playing them, but those are small games from like independent studios, like just random people just creating a game on their own in their garage or in a spare bedroom or something like that. Just the purest of pure independent games are doing better than what this game is doing. And this is a major studio that spent years of development on it. And I think the lesson that ultimately could be learned from this disaster is just the fact that Sony was trying to pander to the modern audience when it came to this game. They thought like, okay, well, there's a lot of people online that say they want to have all these androgynous characters. They want to have different representation. They want to have pronouns, because I think ultimately a lot of these companies and these developers don't care about this sort of thing. They're just seeing this kind of stuff online. So they think, well, this is the modern audience that we need to cater to. And we've seen like pretty recently with games like this, with games like Dustborn, that modern audience doesn't exist. Regular gamers and regular people who just want to play a game and not be lectured to and not have all this identity politics pushed down their throats are overwhelmingly rejecting this sort of thing. And a lot of these games, since they took so long to develop, it was something that was kind of in the pipeline for a number of years. And I think what we're going to start seeing is a lot of major studios starting to abandon those principles and try to go back to games that are just trying to, be a fun game that people can enjoy without actually trying to lecture to them, because those are the type of things that are selling. Like we see Black Myth Wukong is selling really well because it's not trying to push any identity politics, despite a lot of media outlets trying to chastise that game for not actually having enough diversity. That game's doing really well. And I think places like Sony are starting to take note of that. So they're going to maybe change course down the road, or they can continue to produce games like this that are just going to lose them hundreds of millions of dollars. But let me know what you think about this development in the comment section below. Are you surprised that this got canceled this early? Or did you think it was going to last a little bit longer, kind of like how Marvel's Avengers were before they finally pulled the plug on it? And if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share the video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.